Well, KwaZulu-Natal is still recovering from last year's deadly flooding, and the Council for the Built Environment, along with the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure, will convene a climate change indaba in Durban. It's a two-day meeting aiming to tighten the planning of preventative measures against climate change-related disasters and ensure something of a coordinated response the next time it happens. It's not if, it's a case of when. The 2022 floods claiming the lives of over 440 people, leaving at least 40,000 displaced. These were the most catastrophic floods in years. A national state of disaster was declared by the president. Let's talk business for a second. And small and medium-sized enterprises are making a massive contribution to the country's GDP growth and employment. We know how very important they are, but there's a lot of barriers, restrictive barriers, when it comes to accessing the financing that they need to survive. That's not even talking about the money they need as a startup. Now, according to the Department of Small Business Development, it's a scary stat. 70 to 80% of small businesses fail in the first year. Well, banks have been found to lack the appetite, if it were, to grant loans to SMEs. So how do you go about and do it? Maybe you've got a brilliant idea, maybe you are able to get going. What happens if you can't continue on that upward trajectory? Well, let's find out some alternative lending options for these enterprises. Nicole Swart, Managing Director at Merchant Capital, joining me this morning. Hello, Nicole. Good to have you on eNCA. So why do we tend to see SMEs failing within the first year? Bad planning or not enough money, or a bit of both?
Graham, I think you're right on both fronts. The planning and the money management actually go together because you need to really work out what your expected cash flows are going to be. If you look at those failure rates, the failures are around when a business runs out of cash. And the reasons behind that are generally lack of planning around costs specifically. And then you might have a strong order book. You might even have, stock that's on your floor. But unless you, on a monthly basis, managing your cash flow, it's going to be tough.
When we say that businesses start failing within a year, or maybe at the end of year one, they've completely failed, what is generally the early warning signs? After 2 months, 3 months, the first quarter, second quarter, when do you think most SMEs start realizing that this is a sinking ship and they have to start bailing?
I think it's pretty soon. But I think what the stats are missing is that these are serial entrepreneurs. They'll try again. So it looks bad, but it doesn't give you the fact that once after the first year, you've got 50% of those that actually do survive into the 5-year time span. And that's where, the likes of Merchant Capital, where I work, is really be able to play a strong partnership with our clients. So what we're able to offer is a different way of financing, and that is through a cash advance. So that means you're talking about what makes a business fail is around access to cash. It's the pace at which they're able to access that cash. And also, if you look at the SME, most of them are actually in trade or in services, which means that they don't necessarily have the assets that traditional banking would require to lend. Also, they may not have financial statements, and there's sort of formal things that a bank would look at to be happy with the risk. Where at Merchant Capital or alternative lenders, what we do is we will look at your first year cash flow. So we're happy to look after you after year one. Let us take a look at how you manage your cash. Have you been able to keep on top of supplier payments? What's your credit looking like? And then we can step in either with smaller facilities, which will help you grow over time, or we give you a bit of headroom. We say, here's a certain amount of money, draw down when it's appropriate for you, because we know that you can afford to pay us back based on our assessment. So there's alternatives out there. I think it's lack of education for these business owners. That's what we're finding.
I still think entrepreneurship should be a subject in school, high school, if not primary school, at least high school. I don't know how long Maya Fisher-French and I have been banging on about this. Nicole, I need to just move away to breaking news in a second, but I want you just to help me very, very quickly. So how does someone watching this, an SME, that's maybe looking at starting up or exactly in the same position we're talking about, that sinking ship is starting to take on more water, what do they need to do? What do they need to provide to you? Because the problem with SMEs is they're very good at running their business. They're not necessarily running their money and their accounting very well. Just quickly, tell me, where am I sending people?
I think that they need to look at, first of all, personally, they need to look at their personal finances and their business finances together. If they do come to Merchant Capital, what we will be able to do is look at their payment history and look at their affordability. We will be able to advise whether it's a good time to inject some cash into their business, maybe to get over a requirement around getting some stock in to really up their ability to sell. But I think that always come and speak to us first. I think that our doors are open. This is what we do. We've been doing it for 10 years. This is our speciality. We only lend to SMEs. So I think come and speak to us. Yeah.